What's up everyone? This is JP with Oracle Lighting, and today we're here to check out how to install the new ColorSHIFT Complete Interior Ambient Lighting Kit for the 2019 to 2022 Dodge Ram. That kit includes 4 circuit boards for the footwells, 3 circuit boards for the dash, and 3 circuit boards for each door. All 19 of these circuit boards link together to a central Bluetooth unit, which allows you to turn the lights on and off and change the colors via the Happy Lighting app. This is a fairly detailed install, which requires removing all 4 door panels as well as some interior panels and making some slight modifications to the factory equipment. We're going to show you how to do this step by step here. So the first step is to remove the infotainment system. We're going to do that by removing 2 Phillips screws from the top and then firmly pulling outward on the whole system. There's a rubber mat here that you remove to expose the screws. Now with those 2 screws removed, we're going to firmly pull outward. It's in there pretty firm, so you got to give it a nice hard tug. You'll see that along with the infotainment system comes the AC vents and the cover for the mode selector switch. We're going to go ahead and just let that rest against the shifter. So now that we have the in-dash removed, we just need to find the light housing, which is this blue casing here. This is attached to a light pipe that goes across the dash. We're going to go ahead and pull that off, and then we're going to go ahead and unplug it. So with the first light housing removed, we just need to remove the circuit board for the white LED from this and replace it with the Oracle RGB LED. To do that, we're just going to release these clips on the side. And we're going to pop this guy out. So with the factory LED removed, we do need to make a slight modification to this casing so we can get the wires out for the Oracle RGB circuit board. We just need to trim off this little tab here. So we're going to trim that off flush with a pair of snips. Now we're going to take the Oracle LED. We're going to insert that in. We're going to firmly push down here. We're going to get this thing down in there as much as we can. All right. Now we'll lay the wires over and we'll go ahead and close this down. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to remount this assembly back to the light pipe. All right, there we go. We're going to go ahead and leave this cable here for now. We're going to route that once we get the controller in place. So next we're going to move to the ambient light that's right over the ignition button. We're just going to reach behind here and pull this housing outward. We're going to go ahead and unplug this. Now we just need to do the same thing. We need to take the factory white LED out of this assembly and replace it with the Oracle RGB down-firing LEDs. You can see that there's 2 snaps on both sides. We can just get in there with a small flathead, comes right off. We can use the same flathead to go ahead and get this LED out. So before we place the Oracle circuit board into this housing, we do need to take a little bit of the material away from here. That's just going to allow the wires to sit out better and allow this cover that we removed to go back on properly. I'm going to use a Dremel with a sanding wheel to do this. We don't need to take off much, just a little bit. Now we're going to go ahead and place the Oracle LED board in. There we go. So now with the Oracle LEDs installed in the housing, we just need to make a slight modification to the cover to get it to sit back over the LEDs since it is a little thicker. We're going to go ahead and trim these tabs off. So after we've trimmed off these center tabs, we need to also trim off these smaller tabs here. And also this one. Now we can put this back on. We're gonna go ahead and reinstall this housing. Got it back in place. The last board we need to install is behind this section here. To get to this, all we need to do is remove this AC vent. Easy as that. Go ahead and remove the third LED housing. We'll unplug it.
Hold on. Do the unplug part again?
So we're gonna go ahead and pop this back on. Hiya. So we just need to drop this cable down through and pull it from under the dash. So go ahead and drop this down, and it should drop straight down with no issues. There we go. Pull it on down. Now we're gonna need to go underneath and pull it back up and feed it through to the center where the infotainment system is. So we're gonna go ahead and feed this wire up as far as we can, and then we're gonna pull for it. You can also use a fish rod to make this easier. And there we go. So with the wire routed, all we need to do is put this AC vent back in its place. Just a firm push. All right, first, we need to take a small flathead and we need to remove this little cover behind the door handle. Next, we're gonna loosen this 10mm bolt. Next, we need to take this panel, exposing these two 10mm bolts. We're gonna remove these as well. So we're gonna reach over to this lower corner. We're gonna give the panel a nice hard tug. And then we're just gonna finish around the edges. So we're gonna have to remove the window switch, and then we'll unplug it here. Remove the lock cable. So we release the clip for the door handle cable, and then we're gonna pull it upward. Then we'll be able to just release this. So we're gonna bring the door panel to a padded workspace. We have the lower pocket, the middle pocket, and the door handle. The install process is gonna be the same for all 4 doors. So we're gonna start with the lower pocket. We're gonna remove this T20, and we're gonna pull the circuit board housing away from the light pipe. We're gonna unplug it. Next, we're gonna use a small flathead screwdriver to open the cover. There's 4 clips. Now that we've got the cover open, you see the circuit board laying in there. We're just gonna tip this upside down. We're gonna take that circuit board out. We're gonna put it to the side. So before we put the Oracle circuit board in, we need to make a small trim to allow for the wires to come out. We're gonna trim off this tab. We're using some sharp precision cutters to do this. You can use a Dremel if you don't have access to one of these. There's 4 bundles of 3 circuit boards, 1 for each door. We're gonna unwrap that. I'll show you the different boards. So each kit comes with 4 sets of these 3 circuit boards and 4 of these splitter harnesses. These are for the 4 doors. This is the circuit board for the lower pocket. We're going to take the Oracle circuit board. We're going to insert it into its housing. So we're gonna lay in the circuit board. We're gonna make sure the wires are laying out. We're gonna press that bottom part of the circuit board in, make sure everything's nice and flush. And we're gonna go ahead and close the cover. There we go. So we can now plug this factory plug back in. We don't have to worry about it making contact with anything. That's just to prevent the wires from being loose and dangling around. We're gonna put the circuit board housing back onto the light pipe. We're gonna move that down, get that screw hole lined up, and we're gonna put our T20 back in. Moving on to the center pocket. Again, we're gonna remove a T20. We're gonna pull out the circuit board housing. We're gonna unplug the circuit board. This is the center pocket circuit board housing. We're gonna use a small flathead to pry open the cover. You'll notice that there's a clear lens that comes out with this. We're gonna set that to the side. If it doesn't just fall out when you lay it upside down, you can just take your screwdriver and you can push on the contacts inside of the plug a little bit, get that loose. There we go. So we need to make 2 small modifications to the center pocket circuit board housing. First, we're gonna trim this tab with our precision cutters. And we're going to trim this top portion of the housing. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna lay the Oracle circuit board in. We're gonna have the wires laid across, just like that. We are not gonna put the clear lens back in. We're gonna go ahead and close this. And as you can see, this one clip makes this very secure. Again, we've removed the contacts, so we're gonna go ahead and plug this plug back in. We're gonna set the circuit board housing back in place. Now it is gonna be a little bit of a tighter fit with the wires coming out right here, but that's okay. Still gonna go in with no problems. We're gonna put our T20 back in. Last circuit board we need to install is in the handle. We can see that the circuit board housing is held in with these two clips. We're gonna unplug the circuit board first this time, give us a little bit of room to work. I'm gonna grab one end. We're going to push down on one of the clips and we're gonna remove the circuit board housing. This is the door handle circuit board housing. To open it, you'll see that there's two clips here and there's a few clips on the other side. We just need to get our flathead in here and get that separated. So there's the circuit board cover, and you'll notice this clear lens also comes out. We are gonna reuse this one. Here's the factory circuit board. We're just gonna take this out. We can insert the circuit board through the plug cavity, through this small opening. The circuit board's just big enough to be passed through. We're gonna make sure that the wires are nice and bended over this way, and we're gonna push. We're gonna grab this section of the circuit board and we're gonna pull this through. And we're gonna lay this in. We're gonna make sure all of the guide pins match up. We can see our circuit board's nice and snug in place. We're going to put the lens back in, and we do still need to make one small trim here. We do need to trim this piece, this small tab, that way it doesn't push into the wires. Just gonna drop this back into place. There we go. So now with this circuit board housing put back together, we just need to slip it back into place here and clip it in. Now we're gonna do a little bit of cable management before we bring the door panel back to the truck. So we're gonna clip the zip ties that are bundling each of these cables together. We can just follow our factory wire harness, just get a couple of zip ties on here. So now we'll plug in our 3 cables into our splitter harness. Now we're gonna have a lot of cable left over from this one. That's okay. We're gonna bundle that all up here in a second and get that looking nice and clean. We've got the cables primarily running the same route as the door panel wiring harness. We've got everything zip tied up through here, nice and bundled together, and we have our one exit cable which is going to go into the cab of the truck. Now we can take the door panel back and reinstall it. So in order to pass this cable through the door jamb plug, we're gonna have to take this plug off. Unfortunately, it's just too big. So we're gonna take a pick tool, and you'll see right above each contact there's a small key slot. All we need to do is get our pick tool into that hole for each of the contacts. And what that's gonna do is that's going to push the locking tab down, and it's gonna unlock the 4 contacts. That way we can pull them out of the back of the plug. When we're ready to repin the plug, we just need to lift the tabs back up and put this right back in. So we need to feed the wire through this grommet. We need to pass it through to this one. We need to run it up this hose and into the truck. So we're gonna remove this just to get some access. And we're actually going to just push our finger through there, and we're gonna feed our cable through. So we're gonna loosen this grommet. We're gonna feed our cable back through, right into this opening. Should be able to reach our finger in there and grab it. Just gonna pull that slack through. Now we're gonna pull out this grommet. We're gonna need to remove this plug in order to get through. So we're gonna use our flathead and we're gonna push this down, And we're gonna get under and release the other. We're gonna pull this out, get this out as far as we can. We're gonna go ahead and pass this through the boot, through the hose. So we're gonna have to make sure we keep this thing as straight as possible. And we're just gonna feed it on through. Straighten this out, feed that cable through best as we can. It is tight. You can use fish rod if you have it. So we got it through. There is a small slot. We're gonna feed this cable through it. Make sure these pins are flat out the other side. And this is actually really perfect for this cable. And now we've got our cable running through with the factory harness. Now, next thing we need to do, we're gonna reach down. We're gonna go ahead and pass the wire through, grab it with our fingers on the other side, and there we go. Just gonna pull them right through. So now we're gonna go ahead and get this all put back together. We need to put this boot back around this plug to keep it nice and sealed. We need to make sure that this boot does get right back around this white trim. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get these wires back in, get this plug clipped back into place. We can go ahead and get our other grommet positioned back. So we're gonna go ahead and push this boot back into place. All right, now we're ready to put the door panel back together. Plug this back in. We are going to put our door cable back in. We're gonna take our cable. We're gonna clip the ball into place. We're gonna pull this through and then let it snap itself in. We're gonna slide this in the hole and then we're gonna clip that into place. Next, we're going to pull our switch harness through. All right, now we can just give this a couple of firm pushes. Get that all snapped back into place. We're gonna plug back in our switch. Go ahead and get that situated. Pop that back in. We're gonna put the tin back in for our door handle. These two tins back in. Clip this cover back in, and we're gonna clip this cover back in. So to give us access to the back side of the door plug, we're gonna take this pillar panel off. First, we're gonna remove the weather stripping. We're gonna pull that back to give us some space. Now we're just gonna pull from the bottom, get our screwdriver in here. And then we've got a third one down here. We gotta do the same thing on the other side. Separated that one. Separate that one. Separate that one. So we pulled this out of the truck. Now we're gonna set it to the side. So now that we've got the B-pillar cover off, we have direct access to the B-pillar plug. This is the harness for the door. So what we need to do is we need to take this plug out on this side, right? So we're gonna go ahead and pull that plug out. We're gonna go ahead and drill a hole straight through this. We're gonna pass our wire right through. So we've got our drill with a 5/16 drill bit. Now we just need to release this grommet. That way we can get our cable through. Now we're gonna bring our door panel back and we're gonna get that put on. So we've got our door panel near the door. We're gonna pass our cable through this hole and feed it right through to where we pulled this grommet. We're gonna pull the slack through. We're gonna leave this to the side. We're gonna get our door panel back on. So before we put this B-pillar back together, we want to make sure that we've got everything slacked out just enough. So we have the seat pushed all the way forward right now. We're going to install the footwell. Factory footwell is just clipped in here. So we're just going to unclip that and we're going to unplug it. So this is the housing for the footwell circuit board. There's 4 of these in the truck. They're identical. To open it, we're just going to loosen these 4 clips. factory circuit board in there. I'm gonna go ahead and take that out. So to install the Oracle circuit board, we just need to slip it in through the plug opening. Go ahead and slide that through, place it in, close it back up. All right, now we're gonna clip our footwell back into place. So before we connect the door cable, we're gonna pass it through and under this panel. We're gonna pull this up real quick just to get some better access. We're gonna go ahead and just slide this underneath. We don't need to take this off all the way. Pop that back into place. Put this back down. Next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna pass this cable down underneath this panel. So now with this passed underneath, we were actually able to hide that cable here under the carpet. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna plug in our door cable. Now keep in mind, we wanna leave a little bit of slack under here, just in case we decide we need to move our seat. Obviously the seat's all the way forward right now, so we wanna make sure that when we go ahead and pull that seat back, that we're not pulling all of the slack out of the cable and causing an issue. All right, so now we're gonna put our B-pillar panel back on, and then we're gonna run our main cable back up to the controller. Slide this in, gonna line up our clips, and then we're just gonna give that a nice firm push in. Awesome. Put our weather stripping back in. All right, so we just need to do a little bit of cable management before we route our cable up to the front. There is a factory harness here. We're gonna take our main cable, we're gonna run this over, we're gonna pull it through. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take this section of the footwell cable and the factory plug. We're gonna route that back this way. We're gonna grab onto that factory harness and we're gonna put a zip tie around it. This is just gonna keep everything from hanging, drooping forward and showing. Now we're ready to route the cable up the front. Now we've got that pulled through and it's all the way around the panel. So we can pull this out. Now we've got our cable completely hidden and ready to run up through the dash. Now we have our two cables for our front and rear footwells ready to run up the dash to behind the radio. So now all we need to do is reach through and we need to pass ourselves these two cables. Now this takes a little bit of patience, but you can feed these wires straight up to your hand if you reach through. All right. So we've still got the infotainment unit taken down from when we installed the dash kit. Now we're gonna take our controller, which has a total of 7 outputs. We're gonna mount this into place, and then we're gonna start connecting our cables. We're going to connect our 2 footwell cables, which also have our doors connected. And when we finish installing the other side, we'll go ahead and connect the cables from the passenger side on in with these. So we've got our T-taps installed. We're gonna go ahead and plug in our power and our ground. That way we can go ahead and test our light. So by default, the TRX 12-volt socket at the top of the dash is set from the factory to be constant power. That's this 20-amp fuse, which is F54A. Now in the owner's manual for the TRX, it states if you'd like for this to be accessory powered or ignition powered, simply pull this fuse and move it over 1 slot to the right to 54B. When the fuse is moved over to F54B, the 12-volt socket only works when the key is on. The front passenger footwell is a little different. You just need to pull down this under panel. That'll expose everything you need to get the footwell in and run the cables up. So we've got 3 push clips. We're gonna use our panel tool to get those off. 1, 2, and pull that one down by hand. You can see the footwell. We're gonna go ahead and push that clip in, unplug it, remove it. So we're gonna pop our new footwell back in, pass all of our wires through. We're gonna clip that back into place. We're gonna set this to the side for a moment. So we have our cable here from the rear footwell. We're gonna tuck this under just like we did on the driver's side. So now we've got our 2 cables. We need to run these up to behind the radio. We're gonna pull on the corner of this panel for the center console. We're gonna tuck these wires up over. There's not really a ton of great access on this side to get up to the radio. There's a lot of things under the dash blocking this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna run the cables up through here. We're gonna tuck them in and we're gonna pull them right through the bottom, right behind the AC controls here. So we're just gonna get those up here and we're gonna use our panel tool to get it nice and separated there, and we're gonna work it all around. All right, now we've got that pulled through. So we're gonna go ahead and plug in our door harness. Now we're gonna reinstall our under panel. Just put these clips back in. All right. So now we'll go ahead and put our infotainment center back in. We want to make sure that we keep these wires around this general area. That way they don't get pinched. Let's go ahead and get this guy pushed back up. Now we're just going to go ahead and give it a few firm presses. Last thing we need to do is put our screws back in the top. And reinsert our mat.